Welcome to another show of Celebrate Life. My name is Gary Carolis and I'm your host. The focus of this program is to introduce to you the amazing lives people have lived. Everyone has a story to tell, and every story is worth celebrating. If you would like to be a guest on the show or know of someone that you think might be wanting to be a guest, please contact me at celebratelife0747@gmail.com. That's celebratelife0747@gmail.com. Now it is my extreme pleasure to introduce you to today's guest, Jim Rader. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Gary.
Great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
So let's celebrate your life, and that's been quite a life to celebrate.
So far.
So where would you like to start? Where did it all begin?
Well, it all began in Indiana. I was born in a small city in southwestern Indiana and grew up on a farm nearby, a family farm. So I grew up one of 6 children eventually, one of 5 for many years. It was a good way to grow up. It was, you were close to the land, you were close to nature. There was always work to be done.
Yeah.
So there was no sitting around. You did your chores before you
early in the morning.
Yep. Before you went to school.
Wow.
And we always had what we call chore clothes that we hung outside the back door, inside by the back door, so that you didn't go to school smelling like the barn. And that's the way I grew up.
What kind of farm was it? What did you...
It was primarily a grain farm. We raised corn, soybeans, wheat, and hay. And we always had animals. We never had dairy, but we had beef cattle at different times, and sometimes more than one of beef cattle, sheep, hogs.
Amazing.
Probably 1 or 2 others that I'm forgetting, but yeah.
Wow, that's quite an experience there.
So I say it was a good way to grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. How many acres did you have?
Well, to start with, my parents started out with only 20 acres, and my dad tenant farmed and did custom work with his tractor. Eventually, he had over 400 acres.
Oh, my goodness.
When he retired. But
wow.
Probably when I left home, he was farming more like 200 acres, or farming more than that, but owned 200 acres.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What was? Tell me a little bit about farm life with you. You had brothers and sisters.
I had 2 older siblings and 2 younger siblings.
Okay.
So Meg and I have observed that we probably got together because we're both middle children. We kind of relate to that.
Negotiate both sides.
Yes, that's right. I would say my parents were very good parents. They were very devoted parents. They had good values. My mother in particular, many people feel she was a saint, and I'm not too far from that point of view myself. My father was more problematic perhaps in some ways. Tended to get very depressed during the winter when he couldn't work.
Oh, yeah.
When he just sat around a lot.
Yeah.
So I grew up very aware of his depression.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and the local schools there, what was that like?
Well, let me skip and say that I graduated from high school in a class of 16.
16.
11 girls and 5 boys. And 2 of the boys were named Rader, the other being my second cousin. So,
oh my goodness.
You get the picture. It was a small scene.
Did you have things like proms and?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
And of course, actually my father, I believe it was during my high school years, that he was elected township trustee, which was the one office in town, for example, hired the teachers, etc.
Okay.
And he was involved in consolidating the schools. So what had been 5 different town schools became one.
Okay.
But that was just after my time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Any memorable experiences as a kid on that farm or in that community?
Well, for some general background here, I think looking back, I probably had a touch of autism. And I know my parents were concerned because I would spend a lot of time in parallel play. I would spend a lot of time playing with other kids, but particularly before I started school. I would be playing alongside kids, but I'd be into my own world.
Gotcha. Right.
And my father called it wool gathering. I would be in my head all the time, and he, tried to get me to stop it. I think going to school was an important development because I think finally I began to socialize with other kids in a different way and began to have success academically. And I wanted to go to school so badly. My 2 older sibs would bring home their textbooks, and I, for example, I think was doing 6th grade math before I even started school.
Wow.
And I was really into really wanting to go to school very badly. And when I was 6 years old, I went to first day of school and just loved it. And that night, we were going to my grandparents' house, and my parents broke the news to me that the school board had decided that I couldn't start school because I was born in January just after.
Oh, no.
I was devastated.
Oh,
and so I had to wait another year to start school.
Oh.
But eventually I did. I was never a 7th grader. I skipped 7th grade, so
Wow.
I kind of
Caught right back up to
yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you play sports as a young person?
Well, I went out for sports. I wasn't great. I always played sports during recess in grade school and then in high school. Played a lot of softball. Played a lot of mainly softball, I'd say. But I wasn't quite, and I went out for basketball when I was in the 8th grade. And I wasn't quite good enough. And one of the things I remember so vividly is the first game that I played where not sure I started, but I was brought into the game fairly early on. And it was in the high school I was in had a very small gymnasium. In fact, you couldn't shoot a basket from too far out or you'd hit the ceiling. But we were playing in a really almost like fancy gymnasiums today. And I just remember bringing the ball down and being overwhelmed by the sensory experience. The lights, the sound of the crowd, etc.
Yes.
And I remember throwing the ball away just because I was so,
Got overloaded.
And so I very soon decided that I wasn't gonna be be a star here, and so I became a student manager, and so I got to travel with the team, and
that's great.
so I was very much involved in sports, but I wasn't in the competitive sports. I wasn't a competitor.
Did you have any childhood heroes?
Well, the one I remember most was Albert Einstein. Einstein was always a role model of sorts, and during my high school days, I joined a philosophy book club.
Wow!
And I bought, among other books, I bought a book of his philosophy.
Wow.
And so actually his philosophical writings probably had more impact on me than his scientific and theoretical.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. How about mentors in your life early on? Did you have people that kind of lit up the path for you, that helped you become the person you are today?
Well, one who was probably the best teacher, perhaps still the best teacher I've ever had, somehow by some turn of events, a major poet, not well known, but a major poet from Tennessee, ended up teaching English at my high school
Wow.
for 2 years.
Jeez.
And so he had a great influence on me and is probably responsible for my desire the rest of my life to be able to live up to being a poet.
Wow.
And I have written poetry, but I quit calling myself a poet. I feel it like...
Have you written over the years?
I've written a lot of poetry starting when I was second grade, but
Wow.
and I have shared it with my grandchildren. Meg, my wife, encouraged me about 20 years ago, I think, to put together a booklet of my writings, both poetry and prose, and I'm glad I did that, and I have shared that with my grandchildren.
That's wonderful. Good.
Actually, our oldest grandchild, took one of my poems and made a song out of it and has performed it, actually.
Are you kidding? That's wonderful. What a tribute.
I was quite moved by that.
I bet you were. So you graduated from that class of 16 at high school. What was the name of the high school?
Elnora High School.
Eleanor High School.
Elnora.
Elnora.
Elnora was the name of the small town.
Okay.
And we lived out in the country about 2.5 miles south
Gotcha.
of the town.
And you went to college, is that right?
I did. I went first to Wabash College, which is a small men's college. And after 3 years, I got married, and my wife, who just graduated from high school, and I both went then for 1 year to Indiana University,
Okay.
which is where I got my degree.
Okay. And what was your degree in?
I majored in English literature, but I had minors in math and in classical Greek. And as you might conclude from those factors, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. That's been a lifelong problem for me.
I was just about ready to say you're a Renaissance person.
I have tendencies in that direction.
Okay. So, what was there anything in your college years that was outstanding for you?
Well, I think I had some good teachers. I'm not sure I had anybody who rose quite to the level of my high school teacher. And I liked the school. I liked the size of the school. I was not so happy about it being a boys' men's college. As a alumnus, I've been one of the people who've been critical of their continuing to this day to be a men's college.
Is that right? To this day? Wow.
But I eventually found my place there. I was very much an independent. I felt very rebellious against the fraternities, and it was the fraternities probably more than 50% of the students belonged to fraternities. And but I became editor of the college paper, as I had been editor of my high school paper.
Oh, really?
And, I became a dorm counselor, or an assistant dorm counselor, And I was elected to the senior council, so if I had continued there, I would have been had some nice. I would have been working as an assistant to the English department. I would have been.
Oh, I see.
I couldn't have been a dorm counselor if I was married, but
Right.
yeah. And in fact, looking back, I wonder why my wife and I didn't really consider, as I feel we didn't,
Being dorm.
going and her waiting a year to start school and me finish there. So there's a little bit of regret there, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. But writing comes up as a theme here, that you're early on.
I've done a lot of writing in various contexts, and I've published some. I haven't published a lot, but
You have published.
and it was nice to take that writing and compile it into a collection.
So you graduated from Indiana University. Your life is all Indiana up to that point.
That's true.
Where did it open up to a bigger world?
Well, as soon as my senior year and her freshman year were over, we knew I needed to get a job. She was pregnant with our first child. And neither of us had lived in a large city. And we set our sights on Chicago, which leads toward some things that would change my history.
Yes.
I interviewed for 2 jobs through an agency in Chicago. It was an agency that specialized in jobs in the editorial field. And I interviewed for 2 jobs over the telephone. I never interviewed in person. Was offered both jobs. One was as the editor of a small weekly, I believe, newspaper in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I was very tempted, but when I interviewed, they clearly were more interested in my ability to sell ads than they were in anything else.
Of course.
And the last thing in the world I've ever seen myself as or felt.
A salesperson.
Yeah, I'm not a salesperson.
Yeah.
And the other job was with a publishing house in Chicago. And they were book publishers, but they were at the bottom. It was the place, as I would learn, it was a place where most people in the publishing business in Chicago got their start, and then they would work up to better houses and better jobs.
Yep.
And I worked there for 2+ years.
Okay.
And the main project they did while I was there was what was called the Golden Home and High School Encyclopedia. And it was a golden press, the little golden books.
Yep.
I don't even know whether they're still published, but they did the editorial work, and then it would be published under Golden Press.
Okay.
And I increasingly got frustrated because their standards, and by they I mean Consolidated Book Publishers I was working for, and then Golden Press, who were really calling the shots. Their standards were so low. For example, I without bragging, I became one of their best writers, and kind of a utility writer in that they had some people on staff who couldn't write their way out of a cardboard box, but often I would be given an encyclopedia entry that someone else had written to rewrite, and I'd rewrite it. One of the perks of the job was they had a very good research library. And if I was given a subject that I was really interested in, I would go to the library and I'd do much more research than I needed to for this article. And then
Yep.
write the article. But eventually the lack of, the low standards just got to me, and I just couldn't stay there.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I started going to school at night to become a teacher, an English teacher.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Even before that happened, a friend, a neighbor, who worked for the welfare agency, Cook County Department of Public Aid, which is the welfare agency in Chicago. Mm-hmm. He suggested that I could get a job there, which I did, and worked there for probably close to 2 years, a year and a half maybe. Mm-hmm. And then I did teach for 1 year in Chicago before I came to Vermont.
Okay.
But to go back to my first year in Chicago, I was working at the book publisher. And in January, and this would have been January of '61, first of all, our first child, our daughter Carla, was born in November. But in January, we had become active attenders at the Friends meeting in Hyde Park near the University of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And through contacts there, we were asked to become the resident directors of a AFSC, American Friends Service Committee, project house,
Nice.
the project house in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago. And in mid-January, our first workshop, we lived there, we were hosts when a workshop was held.
Okay.
There were a couple people who lived in the house, so we were kind of in charge of the kitchen, etc. And one of the people who came to this workshop was a young man, new in his first, or just finished his first semester, I suppose, at the University of Chicago, one Bernie Sanders.
Uh-huh.
So that's when I met Bernie and
Ah.
had little idea how important he would become in my life.
Oh, my
But,
goodness.
yeah.
And so he came to a friends meeting kind of a thing?
No, it was, the American Friends Service Committee is a Quaker organization,
Right.
but it's separate. It's their service arm.
Okay, gotcha.
And, so these were workshops. His workshop that he came to, the participants went out into the surrounding neighborhood, a mixed neighborhood, Puerto Rican, black, probably poor whites, but it was a poor neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And they helped families fix up their apartments,
Okay.
painting, et cetera, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so that's, Bernie came to that workshop, and so I first met him. And as I've said, I initially was impressed. I was impressed by his politics, but also by his mind, his intellect. But I was also impressed with the way he related to our little baby, just 2 months old. He held her and just really tuned into her. And I've always remembered that. And in fact, when I performed his wedding however many years
20
later.
years later, yeah.
I referred to that as,
Huh. Well, that's do you have a picture of that time?
I don't. No, I
Sounds
wish
like
I
a
did.
very special time.
I wish I did.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Jim. So then you guys became friends?
We were friends. I think the attraction from his side was he related to us as a couple and with a family.
Yeah.
But we also connected around politics. We were on the edges, involvement in the Chicago scene in civil rights action and peace activism.
Mm.
Bernie was a leader in the civil rights side of that, and particularly at the University of Chicago.
Yeah.
And we always figured, my first wife Diana and I, that we could not afford to get arrested.
Right, with the baby and all.
Yeah, so we always stopped short of anything that would have got us arrested. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So this was, and for you, an unfolding, you know, from that rural Indiana town through college. Now this level of activism was a new.
It was quite new.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a new world.
Yeah.
It was totally a new world.
And it sounds like it captured you. It was.
Yeah, I was more and more tuning into what was happening in Vietnam, what was happening in the South. Yeah, it was an exciting time, and we were in the midst of a ferment
Yep.
there that
Yeah.
we tuned into.
And this is way before the Chicago Convention of '68 and
yeah.
all that stuff that went on too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So at some point you left Chicago
After 4 years.
after 4 years. Yeah.
Let me
Oh, go
mention
on.
here one
Yeah.
more thing, though.
Please.
We only lived in the project house for 6 months. And during that time, the San Francisco to Moscow Peace Walk was taking place. It started in San Francisco and was coming across the country, and it was going to come through Chicago. And the planning committee for that met in the House. And so people who were the activists in that
That
kind
walk.
of activity at the time came to and stayed there, and so we got to sit in on their meetings and be part of that. And for example, Bayard Rustin, who actually, what shall we say, he was the key person behind the March on Washington a few years later, a couple of years later,
Wow.
maybe only a year later.
Wow.
He was among the people there, and A.J. Musty, who was a minister who was quite a peace activist, and, others that. So there was a time when Norman Thomas came to speak at the University of Chicago. So this sense of being in the presence
Right.
of someone who had achieved
Yes.
great things in their life, that became a part of my awareness that
Right.
was important. And I still feel that when I think of a few people in my life.
So those, those are mentors of a sort for you, that you were growing leaps and bounds, it sounds like, as a person, as a young person, and absorbing all these great minds as they filtered through your life. That's what
It's a sense of presence that, I don't buy the great man, quote unquote,
right.
idea that some people are, that there should be such a thing as a Hall of Fame and
Right.
all that, even though, by the way, I am named for the quote famous man in my family. And of course, today nobody's heard of him, so that puts fame in a certain context. But, yeah, it's.
Famous in our own minds, right?
But being in the presence of someone who has achieved, and it's not just achievement; it's a presence that I sense and I relate to thinking back. And Norman Thomas is one of those people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, was Jesse Jackson active?
The only time I was in Jesse Jackson's presence, by the way, was in Bernie's office when he was mayor.
I remember that.
I sat right next to him, but he was he was obviously totally exhausted and not into talking to minor officials in
Right.
Sanders' administration.
Yeah. He was running for president at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
that's right. So you left Chicago. Did you leave it to come to Vermont? And what
I did.
What was behind that? Why
Well,
Vermont?
Why Vermont? The short answer is Goddard College.
Oh, okay.
Because Diana, my first wife, had wanted to finish college. And we, by that time, had a couple of children. And most of the colleges she had been interested in going to did not encourage her to try to go to college with small
kids.
children. And then she discovered Goddard. And Goddard was quite different. And so we came out during, this was my 1 year of teaching in Chicago, teaching high school English. And we came out for 2.5 days, I think, in Vermont. And I interviewed for 3 jobs and got offered 3 jobs. I really wanted to take a job teaching English in Craftsbury. I would have been the English teacher for I suppose that was true of any of these jobs,
Right.
where I was an English teacher. But it was a nice little high school in Craftsbury. But it was just too far away from Plainfield, from Goddard. I interviewed in Barrie, and again was offered a job teaching English. And I interviewed in Montpelier, and the principal in Montpelier offered me a job teaching algebra, geometry, and general science. And that's what I ended up taking.
Is that right?
It paid the most, and I was impressed by the
Wow.
principal. Turned out he wasn't quite the guy I thought he was. But, so I had an interesting year teaching. Enjoyed most teaching geometry. I enjoyed teaching geometry particularly. But yeah, and thus Vermont began.
Did Bernie come because of you to Vermont?
No, it's total coincidence.
Isn't that something?
What happened was within a couple of years, Diana was on the Goddard campus walking and encountered Bernie and his wife.
Oh
and,
my goodness.
So we connected again and
Wow.
became close friends at that time.
Yeah,
and,
I bet.
He had bought the land up in Middlesex that
Yep.
he would come up from New York and spend time on, and
Yep.
then eventually move up.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Some things in life you just can't.
Yeah,
You know,
can't explain
You
it.
can't explain.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So, did your wife, was she able to complete her degree at
She
Goddard?
did.
Oh,
She did, and in the process, we came apart as a marriage, and
Okay.
we were divorced after 10 years plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, what happened at that point? So you were teaching at Montpelier.
Well, I only taught 1 year in
Oh,
Montpelier.
okay.
And I got caught up in another controversy, or in a controversy. A guy named Ted Seaver. Ted was, he had, the summer before my year teaching there, he was an English teacher at Montpelier High School. And he had gone to, as part of the Freedom Summer in Mississippi, he had gone down and taught in Mississippi. And Ted was an interesting guy. He is no longer with us, but Ted was the kind of guy who loved sparring with people, loved debate, loved, and he would come in. He was known for coming into the faculty lounge at Montpelier High School and saying something that would provoke somebody. And, he just he got off on that. And before the year was over, he was going back to Mississippi. He was raising money. He started something called Vermont in Mississippi, I think was what he called it. And he raised money to go back to Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing led to another, and I joined a group in a church in Montpelier that he was very much involved in, and it was just turning to dealing with education. And Ted had a particular passion for the kids who wouldn't be going on to college, would not be what were called social arts kids, which was a
Right.
euphemism, for kids who would not go to college. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of had raised the hackles of the powers that be in the educational. Plus, he was controversial because he was going to Mississippi and being an activist. And so suddenly this group in the church, the first time I went, and I went with Ted, we both lived out in Carolis, Vermont, just north of Montpelier. We walked into the room a little late, and there was the superintendent of schools and another member of the school board. And things fell apart from there, and it became a controversy in the Burlington Free Press.
Oh my goodness.
And Ted ended up getting fired. And there were even people who didn't know what was involved who called for my firing.
Wow.
So I ended up resigning and not continuing there. It's ironic that Meg had graduated from Montpelier High School just a year before. We just missed.
My goodness. And Meg is your wife,
Yes,
current
right,
wife.
right.
Just for the
Yeah, right.
Wow. Is that right?
Yeah.
And, okay, wow. So then what happened? You left teaching?
Well, up until I became a counselor with First Division for the Blind and then vocational rehabilitation, I did a series of jobs. Let's see what I did. I helped start a school in Plainfield. It was called the New School. And it was started by a group of parents, of which my wife and I were a part, who were dissatisfied with what the direction of the public schools.
Right.
And I taught there 1 year, taught half-time. And meantime, I was continuing editorial work, freelance editorial work. And I did that for several years. So I did part-time employment outside the home and then this freelance work. And then I guess next would have been I got a job with the state to teach adult basic education. And while that was gearing up, I was hired by the same people as a consultant to make a manual, create a manual for the adult basic ed program. And then I taught that for a while. And then I think I was unemployed, and a neighbor said, "Oh, you should check on vocational rehabilitation." He was working in that. He eventually became my boss, by the way. And I looked into it and ended up getting a job as a voc rehab counselor, but with the Division for the Blind.
Okay.
And
Yep.
did that for a while, and then eventually with the general agency.
Okay.
And I did that for the better part of 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And did it until I got a call one day. I was in my office in St. Johnsbury as a voc rehab. And I'd seen an ad in the Free Press that morning that I thought, boy, this has my name all over it. But then realized, and it was from the VA, and it was for a counselor, a voc rehab counselor, in the Vietnam Veterans Readjustment Program. But then I thought, this calls for a vet. Turns out I am a vet, technically. I served in the National Guard and Army Reserve, mostly on paper.
Okay.
A couple of years active, but
Oh, okay.
but I did not see myself as a vet.
Right.
So I kind of put it out of my mind, and later that morning I got a call from a good friend who was also a voc rehab counselor. And he said, I'd like you to apply for, he had been hired as the team leader. And he said, I'd like you to apply for this job. And I said, well, I'm honored, Walt. I said, but you know I'm not a vet. He said, that doesn't make any difference. I want you on my team. So that's how I got into that program, and that was a very. If Bernie hadn't got elected mayor, I probably would have followed the path that some of my friends did. I was already doing a counseling practice on the side in Essex Junction called the Growth Center. And am I getting that right? Anyway, I guess I got involved in that as I was involved in the vet center.
Yeah.
But I would have gone on probably to get a doctorate and become a psychotherapist.
Yep.
Seriously. But
then
history was made.
History was made.
But to go back a little bit, by the point that Bernie was elected mayor of Burlington in '81, I'd known him 20 years.
Right, 61.
And
yeah.
to go back to '71, 10 years before, Bernie was just in the process of moving to Vermont. And that's when I lived in the apartment you remember on North Winooski. And I was becoming aware of this third party called Liberty Union.
Right.
And I told Bernie about it. And he had come up, and I knew that their convention was taking place. And I had a new car, had a great Corona. What is it? Toyota Corona. Beautiful red car. And so I ended up driving over to Goddard with Bernie in the front seat holding Levy, and Levy smearing banana all over my car, my new car. And his girlfriend, who'd come up from New York, and her two little girls in the back seat.
Wow.
And by the way, a guy who's writing a biography right now of Bernie located this girlfriend.
Oh my goodness.
And I had Googled her and thought, because I remembered her name. Well, I gave his name, her name to him.
Yeah.
And he located her. And it turns out, I probably am going to call her, because when he tells me that when he contacted her, she remembered me. And that something I said to her changed her life.
No kidding.
And it had to do with some kind of a daycare program that she took advantage of, and she was able to go back and get her degree, and now she is a social worker or a counselor or something.
Wow.
And what impresses me about that is I had no idea.
Right.
And how do you know that some chance remark you
Exactly.
make? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So this is the Bernie for Burlington book you're talking about, the biography?
No, it's a new one.
Okay.
There's a guy now, Jeff Stein, who was a reporter for the Washington Post.
Right. He's doing an authorized biography. Is that right?
I would say probably so. I mean, he's interviewed Bernie at least a couple of times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But isn't that funny?
That is funny.
I had no idea.
So your life was flipped from that reconnecting with Bernie, and then of course he wins in 1981.
Well, in '71, I can take credit for, I think, at least partial credit for getting him involved in electoral politics.
Yeah, okay.
Because we went to that convention
That's
and
right.
he surprised everybody, I think including himself, by volunteering to
run for office.
He was sitting there with Levy on his lap, and
Oh my
he
goodness.
raised his hand.
Wow.
And, the rest is history, as
Wow. Those were 10 years of slogging through the Liberty Union Party as a fringe party at that point, 6%, 7%, and then leaving them.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the mayoral race in 81. Wow.
Yep.
So how did the city clerk thing happen?
Well, when Bernie was elected mayor, I did contact him, and we got together at, what was the restaurant that's just beyond exit, doesn't exist anymore, just beyond exit 14 on Fullerton Road.
Right.
And I said, Bernie, I want to be involved in your administration. And Bernie said, well, yeah, I hear you, but you know, I'm not going to have very many jobs to appoint, and most of them are going to call for special ability, like treasurer, for example.
Right.
Some people think I was treasurer. I tell them, no way.
Even though you taught math for a year in Montpelier High School.
Well, the joke in the family is that I'm a whiz with figures, numbers, until you put a dollar sign in front of them, and then I'm lost. But so I told Bernie I'd really like to be part of your administration, and he would kind of discourage me. I mean, on the basis of realism. Well, then I spent for a year. I spent a weekend each month in Montreal training in a particular approach to therapy. And now, how can this be? It must have not been December. It must have the training must have bridged the end of a year. I've had this wrong.
That's okay.
In telling it before. But I was in Montreal, no question about that. And I get a call from Bernie. And he says, he was kind of apologetic, but he said, I can offer you the job of assistant city clerk, and it pays, et cetera. Again, that's one of those numbers that had a dollar sign in front of it, so I don't remember. And I said, yeah, great. Well, again, the rest is history, in that on the April meeting, the reorganization meeting, so-called, we were all turned down, all five of us, and there's that famous picture of us lined up.
Exactly.
And so it wasn't until May of the next year,
Wow.
and your election, as along with Zoe and
Rick Musty,
that turned things around. And so then I became, and by that time, John Franco had decided he didn't want to be city clerk.
Oh, he was going to be the city clerk.
And so by
I don't see
by
that.
default, yeah, that's what most people say. But,
wow.
I want to give credit here to all my assistant city clerks, because I had a string of them, just amazing women who served as my assistants. But and I could not have served in this way. I mean, they were good with supervision and organization. But the initial one was Jeannie Keller.
Jeannie Keller,
and
right?
Jeannie was amazing.
Yeah.
And I have to give her credit, because I could not have done what I did without the boost that gave me to start off with.
Well, you came in with with nothing, right?
Yeah, the story I like to tell about that is I had never run an election. I think I had been a poll watcher at one election. And I know my mother had been a poll watcher, so I knew what a poll watcher was, but I had no idea how you ran an election.
Right.
And the first election was that fall,
Wow.
the primary.
Yep.
And what I decided to do, there's a period of 2 years, I think, where you have to keep these containers that come back from the polls, you have to keep them and keep them sealed, just in case there's a
Sure. A
recount or whatever. And so I was able to open these. And I went down in the basement of City Hall into a room, and I just dumped one of these, probably more than one in the end, but I dumped the contents on the floor. And it felt like being an archaeologist. Like, okay, if this came back, this had to go out, and et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, and I'm proud of this, eventually I wrote a manual, probably the first manual in the state of Vermont for elections, and I think improved it over time. But that's where it started.
Wow.
Kind of going through the ruins.
Jeez.
And,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, and it was by fire. I mean, you had to do this, had to put all this together really quickly while you're doing other city clerk type
Yeah.
responsibilities, right?
Well, and the other thing that was tough in that period was we had the old 800-pound voting machines,
Yeah.
and you had only about 6 per ward, I think 6 at most. And these were these humongous, very heavy, I remember 800 and some pounds, machines that had a large sheet of paper in the back that the votes got registered probably by
Punching or
well, when a
lever was.
when a lever was flipped, it advanced a counter, and then I think at the end of the night, when they pulled a lever to finalize, then it printed onto the paper the results.
Wow.
But anyway, that first election, the problem with these machines, besides their weight and their being so hard to move and just clunky, was that only one person could vote per machine at a time, and everybody else had to wait online. And so it took, whatever time a person took in that behind the closed curtain, nobody else could be voting in that machine. And when the polls closed at 7, the law was that anybody in line at that point got to vote. But in all the polling places, there were lines going out into the street and down the block.
Jeez.
And I lost my vote in that election because I didn't dare go either cut the line in order to vote or get at the end of the line because I had to deal with this mess.
Across the city.
Across the city. And so the next morning, first thing, I went up to Bernie's office and I said, we got to do something about this. We can't go through. This is it'll even be worse in the general election. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And this was probably the October and November election. I think we had only about a month.
Yeah, right.
Maybe a little longer. And so we quickly started shopping for voting machines. And even though I had never run elections, just by reasoning, I decided you got to have a way, mark sense machines that just read a ballot. So you can have people sitting, going to many booths, or sitting at tables even. Eventually we made these dividers and used tables.
Right.
You can have as many people voting as you need at one time. and all they need is 10 seconds to feed their completed ballot.
Right.
And so very quickly, we decided that was the way to go. Now, the first ones we got were primitive in some ways, and then eventually were much better ones. But it was the right call.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So probably one of the most important decisions I made early on was that one.
I was going to ask you about that. You know, what were some of the most important things that you did as city clerk? And it sounds like that's clearly right up there.
Yeah, you know, you ask how I identify, and I spent a little time thinking about that. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I decided, I think, that my primary identification, looking back, is public servant.
Mm.
And I think that was a role that I was always trying to live up to, to be the best public servant I could be. And I remember when a woman came to town, and I'll remember her name in a minute, and she very quickly became chair of the Democratic Party in Burlington. And she later told me, we later became good friends. She's since died. And she later told me that when she first came into my office as chair of the Democratic Party, she expected me to be hostile.
Right.
And that she was pleasantly surprised when I came across as neutral and fair. And so fairness, going back to my parents, and my parents had a very strong sense of fairness, and instilled that in me. And another thing that was instilled by my parents, and I've written a poem about this. The poem centers around an incident in which my father was going to a woman's house on a Sunday morning on the way to church. And one of the granite posts beside her driveway had fallen over. And my dad said, "Hey, Jim, come help me." And we righted that. And I think the poem is called Upright. And that sense that there's a right way to do things. There's a right way. It's not even, it doesn't have to do with a particular belief system, really. It just has to do with a sense of fairness. Yeah. And I always...
and seeing a problem and doing something about it and fixing it.
Yeah.
Jim, in your years of service in the city, and certainly in the Bernie administration, what did you bring to the table there amongst your peers?
Well, as you probably know, Bernie's never had a high regard for bureaucrats. Bureaucrat is a dirty word in his vocabulary. And sometimes I look back and see myself as the good bureaucrat. You know, the bureaucrat who hopefully counters that perception. Yeah. And I think that's an unfortunate perception. Yeah. I think there is such a thing as good government.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's too bad that I saw on my way here, we stopped and I got a cup of tea, and the guy had a T-shirt that said, "Feds are not your friends." And I think the anti-government what's the word I'm trying for? I mean, it's, just a bias. Yeah, is unfortunate. Yeah, but there's good reason for it. Yeah, and people are red tape, bureaucracy. You know, I've experienced it myself, and I know So I think in my years as a public servant, I've tried I've tried to overcome that.
And that goes City Clerk, but also your veterans work to try to help pave the way through for veterans to.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we kind of slid over that. But vets, in particular, have a suspicion and prejudice against the VA. And one of the interesting things was that program, when it was introduced, the VA was very careful not to promote it as a VA program. And in fact, they started these vet centers. And we, by the way, in Williston were the very first one to open our doors. And they carefully, and we went along with this, we carefully did not promote any connection with the VA. And at times that was kind of ironic.
Interesting, yeah. Well, it gave you a sense of how bad the government departments are seen by the public. Bureaucracies again.
Right.
So we have about 5 minutes left. We've covered a lot of ground about your wonderful life already. Have we missed a piece that you'd like to share before we end?
You've done a good job. I can't think of anything important. I don't think that you've missed.
Okay. How about if you were to, do you have a special quote or words of wisdom for the audience about life?
Well, I've had the same therapist for longer than I've been married to Meg, so 40 some years, I'll say 45 years. And he's helped me a lot. And I'm still trying to accept and live the truth of something he said to me over and over. And he said that what people will remember you for is who you were, not what you accomplished or not what you did. And I'm still dealing with that because I have some things in my life that I haven't finished. And I'm dealing with the fact that at 87 years old, I probably won't finish maybe any of them, or at least not all of them.
Yeah.
And so I accept the truth of that wisdom. But I haven't quite internalized it yet. Haven't quite accepted it. I think that mortality, human mortality, is probably the most basic truth of all.
Yeah.
And I don't personally believe in anything beyond mortality. I don't believe in reincarnation or heaven or any of those things. And I think that's right. I think you have your turn on earth and you move on, and somebody else can take your place. You know? Not everybody believes that, but that happens to be my belief. And I hope, the things I'm most proud of in my life, I think, are my children. And I think beyond that, other people in my life that maybe I've affected their lives in a positive way. And then I think public service.
Yeah. It's great having you on the show, Jim. You are a wonderful public servant and a great human being, most importantly.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you do.
You bet.